All right, it's Monday. It is time to do another week of the Sunshine State Happy Hour. And what's really neat about this week is that we are going to be spending most of it in North Florida, with the exception of Wednesday. Wednesday, we're going to Ohio, which is okay. But everything else is going to be basically, it's fine. Everything's going to be basically north of Ocala at this point. So, which is going to be awesome. This is Dave from Florida Beer Blog, your host and author. As with me, as always, is my fair companion, Steve. How are you?
Good, Dave. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. And actually, you know something, Steve? Since this is kind of your baby, I'm going to let you go ahead and do the introduction because you're the man when it comes to this one. So go for it.
So with us today is Shane from High Springs Brewing, a personal favorite brewery of mine, and my brother's, who goes there way more than I can possibly get there. How you doing, Shane?
Excellent. Glad to be with you all today.
Yeah, I'm excited. I at Steve's insistence, the last time I was in High Springs, which is northwest of Gainesville, if you're familiar with the area. It's been a couple of years, but Shane, you actually brought me over to your new location when it was still a blacksmith shop, I do believe.
Welding shop.
Welding shop.
Okay, yeah. Welding shop. So it's been quite the ride for you. How much work have you done, and where kind of are you in the building right now?
Well, we officially opened back in at the end of July last summer, and so we're up and running, and apart from where everybody is now, having to kind of put the brakes on everything, we were about 6-7 months in, to being open, and kind of beginning to work on our next phases of growth, and it's just only slowed down a little bit. We haven't had to get rid of any plans. We're just on pause for some, and it's given us time. This has given us time to actually work on some projects that being open doesn't allow you to do.
Nice. Yeah, because and you're relatively close to what is basically the hub of downtown High Springs.
Yeah. We're pretty much right.
Judging from the really, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying we're a block away from the one light we have in downtown, so we're pretty much in the heat of it, and
nice. If you would be so kind, since I know that you are there, I'm going to put this on pause and give you the full thing. Is it possible for you to give us a quick spin around and just kind of show us what all you have?
Sure. Yeah, let's.
Yeah.
We working on a 3-barrel system, and that's there behind me. And we have a pilot system, 1-barrel system, right there. And so we have our 1-barrel fermenters for a lot of our one-off things that we do, and our here we go. Got 4 7-barrels and 2 3-barrel fermenters that we do our core beer out of, and that's pretty much kind of what we're working with right now, and looking to expand into other things, later in the year. May end up being the beginning of next year, the way things are shaping up, but still making progress, and because we just added 2 fermenters, right before all this, the shutdown of everything, and so that's been nice to kind of help us, because we were progressively having a difficult time keeping up with the demand in the local market, which you do all of your homework and research, and then you realize that sometimes homework doesn't matter. it comes down to reality, and you got to catch up, and so it's been a good run getting that figured out, and we've about got that hammered out, and we'll actually be able to keep the tap room pretty well stocked as we begin to expand and look at distribution potential, even on a small scale, for just feeding kind of around us, restaurants that want to have the beer on tap, and grocery stores. They may be further down the list, but grocery store managers that are here locally that definitely want to support us as well. And so the feedback from the community has been amazing and pretty insane, in a positive way, just how we've been received. And so we're enamored with our community, and how they've embraced us and keep supporting us now. And so that.
Well, and how's the canning been going? Because I know you guys just started canning like when this whole thing started rolling out.
Right. It's a labor of love. It's one can at a time, and we all take turns pumping it out and kind of getting it going. And we have kind of like the 12 and 16 ounce October canner, so we're just filling them straight off the tap, and kind of getting that going. And as we're looking, because that was one of the things we were beginning to work towards, was having a small footprint canner of some kind that would help us produce more in-house 6-packs or 4-packs,
like to-go sales and stuff like that.
But it's been going. At first, when we were thinking about it, it was kind of daunting to kind of project. But then once we got into it, it was the way that people were, cleaning the shelves off pretty much every other day, and it was a matter of now it's kind of normal, and it's just a matter of keeping the shelf stocked as best as possible while still being able to keep the growlers going. And so I think it's been a really interesting set of kind of off-premise consumption habits, because we really weren't doing a lot of growler sales before, and so now, since that's all we've been able to do, a lot of our regulars who normally came are now, they're here every week or every few days doing growlers and buying 4-packs, and so it's going really well.
I was going to ask, obviously you're relatively close to Gainesville, and Gainesville has quite the craft beer community growing. They've got some pretty big names there and some small names that they're really starting to kind of get there. Do you find that it's mostly people from High Springs and Alachua, that sort of area, that are coming over to you? Or is it mostly the Gainesville crowd that's coming over to you? Or is it the best of both worlds?
I would say that a lot of our regulars, which pretty much it probably was about a 60-40 split. And we had about 60% of our regulars come from the Alachua, Newberry, Fort White, High Springs, so within, 15 miles of us, which really splits the difference between us in Lake City and us in Gainesville. When the tap room was open, we had a lot of new people that were coming in from Gainesville as they were, hearing about us and coming to kind of explore our beer. And some people that they come from Gainesville to us, but they also go to Lake City. They also go to all the breweries in Gainesville, and where they're just kind of regular supporters of all the breweries in this area.
There you are. Look at you acting. So impressive. But before we get into the beers, because I know that Steve has some of your stuff coming towards us, what is everybody drinking? Steve just Steve, go. Because I want Kiffin to go last so that he can tell us more about everything else that he has.
I actually just picked up a 4-pack of Lunch Money from Lauderdale today, and it's just a great beer as always. Trying to keep it in the local South Florida area this week.
Yeah, kind of same thing here. I'll go very quickly, but this I was actually very happy for. This is the Great Wave from Saltwater, which is their kind of their sake ale made with rice. So it's got this really interesting, because if you've had sake, you know it's got this sort of very, not bitter, but very meaty, kind of strongish undercurrent. It's got a lot of that mixed in with some really interesting lemon notes that are coming from the hops. So it's very satisfying. I do want to get some sushi right now, so it's kind of killing me. And then Kiffin, what are you drinking? And then kind of let's dovetail into what are some of the things that really fly off the shelf at High Springs? Are you able to push the boundaries like Gainesville is doing, or do you need to keep things very simple and close and clean to attract a crowd that really isn't traditionally into craft?
Yes, we're pretty much working within a community that's kind of mixed but heavy on that lighter traditional American lager side. And so we're, what I'm drinking is a nice traditional IPA, and it's our train hopper. We just were able to kind of get it put together and produced a couple of weeks ago, and that's been really nice to finally get to where we have our house IPA. We've had several others that we've been producing kind of on a pilot level, and those are great for people that are already IPA lovers. They can come in. We have some hazy options and some other. We've got a rye. Was a pale ale. It's finishing a little higher, so it's going to be a rye IPA, different from one of our core beers, and so there. A lot of our focus is geared towards drinkability and kind of beer education, moving people that traditionally drink mass market beer into understanding how drinking, local beer can be, not a scary thing, and that it can be an enjoyable experience, and it kind of feeds your local economy. I mean, so there's a lot of pieces that we're working with. Our top seller is a Kolsch, for that reason. It's pretty much 3-to-1 any beer, and coming up on its coattails is an American wheat, which we introduced several months after we opened. But our people are receiving well the American Brown and American Porter, that we have out there. They're beginning to kind of move from the Kolsch into other styles and beginning to understand, those beer traditions in other parts of the world, and really begin to connect and see that beer is much more than, just one kind of yellow fizzy beverage, and so and it's really been interesting because we had people come in all the time. What's the closest thing to one of the mass market beers, and so we'll tell them the Kolsch, and so we had a Rausch beer on tap, in November, or at the end of the year. And somebody they tried it, and that's all they drank, that night. They didn't go for anything light, and so it was really I think a lot of it comes down to breaking down the barriers and introducing kind of new flavors that people are willing to experience. And that's been really enjoyable, I think, for us, and a little bit challenging as well. Being able to keep up with what people are liking and producing it, and coming up with kind of new and interesting things, kind of from within our minds and our curiosities. But that's pretty much kind of where a lot of our beers focus right now. And as we begin to grow and expand kind of later in the year, we're at our 100th batch on Wednesday, and we're going to do a unique beer that we'll have available at our anniversary celebration at the beginning of August. If everything opens up well and we're able to at least have that, whether we are or not, it's going to be a bottle release, and so we'll be able to send it out, and you'll definitely, your names will be on a bottle for sure.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's been amazing to watch the growth. And I mean, obviously your growth was not without hiccups. There was an issue with food trucks, I think, not too long ago. That was more of just teaching the community what brewery culture is.
Right.
Am I correct in assuming that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
No, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was agreeing with you that there was a lot of discussions related to just helping the local economy progress, while it's not harming other local restaurants in the way that the city council may have been thinking about it. And some of our supporters were actually the restaurants themselves, being able to, because if we're creating a culture of people that are coming out, they're socializing, you're going to have exposure to the businesses that are downtown, which are other restaurants. And if you have people that are accustomed to not eating at home or eating out with regularity, then providing some kind of variety helps them to not get bored. It helps them to keep that momentum going, and it helps everybody.
Interesting. And you kind of mentioned that it helps everybody. One of the things that I really find interesting about sort of the northern section of Florida is looking at a city, and High Springs is the perfect example. It's a little off the beaten path. It doesn't necessarily get the most visitors. And, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about you in High Springs. I'm thinking about Hull Patter in Lake City, and they're actually going to be on Friday, I think, on the Sunshine State Happy Hour. Palatka's building, Azalea City. You've got these little communities that don't really have a ton. The brewery comes in, and that sort of becomes the anchor for this revitalization of not just the downtown area, but the community as a whole. Is that effect coming to High Springs because of you? And is that something that you wanted from High Springs because of you?
I think that it's happening. High Springs pretty much has, when people think about High Springs, being originally from Gainesville, and then progressively like living in Gainesville, having the mindset of somebody in that city, the idea of going to High Springs was like making some journey that you'd had to really kind of prepare for. And now that we live out here, going to Gainesville is more of, it just seems a lot easier, if we were to want to go, then we could get there. A lot of people would they associated Great Outdoors and the Springs with High Springs. And, being one of the according to the local dive community, it's a huge cave system over the springs, and being able to the tourism that comes into High Springs for just the springs or for diving, and then pretty much the other thing was one of the local burger joints, or so it's restaurants, and so now being able to provide something that another destination that reinforces what was already established. So now it kind of helps to round out the you go into the springs, you're going to eat. Now on the weekends when we had live entertainment, there was now you've got the great outdoors or somebody else, so you've got options for music or options for eating, to kind of round out your weekend. If you went to the springs, and if you wanted to just come, here and relax and enjoy it, it gives another reason to come to High Springs and feed the local economy and grow. And so that's been a lot of our impetus, is helping to provide strength, economic strength, and in a community that that we obviously are a part of and love and enjoy, and a lot of people come here, and so it kind of made sense to keep pursuing it and making it happen, and to kind of push for moving forward. As the guard changes, there's a lot of property that's being bought and sold from old High Springs families into new owners. There's also old owners that are excited about new growth and are very supportive. So there's a mix of that old and new that's really kind of working together to really, I guess create a strong, or I guess with a goal to create a strong community that will see that the future growth from that we see in communities that come that are kind of desolate. They get a brewery and all of a sudden they're booming. We're hoping to be able to just create a strong economic community that just stands any kind of time like now, when things are put on pause, where when everything is lifted, everything just kind of goes back to a so-called normal.
Nice. One of the funny things about the normal, obviously being Florida, are collaborations. And we actually have a question here from Nate as to when do you think Florida breweries will start getting back into collaborating a little bit more with local breweries? And I guess that's a great way to sort of dovetail it with you, because you have so much very close by in Gainesville. Have you started doing collaborations, or have you started speaking about collaborations a little bit more? What does that look like for you?
We have talked. We're good friends with all the breweries, and so we've had discussions with Hal Patter. And a lot of it has come down to, before everything stopped, you're kind of caught in that day-to-day kind of the rat race, and you're just trying to get everything done. And so time really escapes differently. So now we've had time to kind of take a deep breath, pace ourselves, and hopefully begin to have a more concerted effort in how we how we're able to kind of fit that in, because we pretty much have been playing catch up since we opened, and now we're at a place where we've caught up, and now we can begin to just keep inventory and brew things that might be a little more different, and have a little and enjoy it differently than where before we were just trying to work as hard as we could to keep beer coming out.
That's amazing. Steve, got anything else before we head to our final question?
Have you been doing drive-through and online ordering, or are you guys just doing straight up walk up, order, and walk away?
We've been doing more just kind of the walk up because our traffic really hasn't been overwhelming. It's been, it's been decent and good, but people will come in and they might fill several growlers at a time, and we're not having a lot of the new customers that are coming out of Gaines. So it's regular people that are coming through.
Just refilling their supply.
Right. And I think
with the open air tap room you guys have, it's pretty easy to keep managing people so they can stay safe apart from each other. And
absolutely. Yeah. Because we've kind of limited it to where there's, one person coming in and then they have plenty of room outside to come in and make their purchases and go. We've looked at doing the online, but I think by volume, the Gainesville breweries or other places had a higher volume that really needed that component.
Right.
Awesome. I will get to the final question, which I'm going to have to change ever so slightly with the number of brewers that I have on this week for the Sunshine State Happy Hour. Obviously, since we have changed all of this situation with this bizarre new normal, you've had to make some changes that were not in the regular business plan. Once this is over, is there something that you've done that you think is going to stick around?
Absolutely. We really weren't. We weren't trying really hard to push the can sales because we were trying to play catch up with just regular tap room sales and making sure that we had enough beer in the cooler and just with turnaround time. And now we're with and really weren't getting a lot of growler sales, and so now I think we're at a place where I think people are going to begin rethinking, what beer they drink out and what beer they drink at home, and I think that's really been a change in the market for everybody, and so for us, I think it'll be an addition. Being able to keep the growlers going and being able, we'll definitely keep cans coming out and beginning to have more. The cans may begin to be more unique, and what we put in cans with some other of the core beers that we'll definitely have, and I think that's going to begin to change, and I think that's something that we're trying to position ourselves to go with that off-premise sales and being able to support that, because I feel like that's going to be the next step for us, is to keep up with that and support that.
Awesome. One last question. Lisa asked, what are your current hours during the shutdown? Because I do know some people have not been able to do normal hours, so figure we can throw that.
Right. Our Monday through Friday, we have pretty much 4 till 8 has been our posted hours, and noon until 8 on Saturday has been kind of our posted hours for that. And if that was to change, then Facebook would be probably one of the first places to look to see if that's changed. And we're hoping that'll change relatively soon.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. I appreciate it. Shane from High Springs Brewing in High Springs, Florida, thank you so much for jumping on the Sunshine State Happy Hour tomorrow. Because you're so close to Gainesville, of course, tomorrow we are heading to Tallahassee because that's just what we do here. And Lake Tribe Brewing, another great Shane. I can see Shane's head going up and down. Big fan of Lake Tribe?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I'm a big fan of Florida beer. So,
well, there's you're great outdoors. They're very great outdoors. There's your next collaboration. let's see if we can get that going. I see if I can connect with that. So I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna run with it as far as I can. Steve, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody else, make sure to follow us. We're at FloridaBeerBlog.com. Florida Beer Podcast can be found pretty much anywhere that you find fine podcasts. Twitter, Instagram, the Facebook. This will be up on YouTube, and if you're watching us on YouTube, hello. Make sure to head up to High Springs. I can't wait to try some of that bottled anniversary ale. I will make sure that we keep an eye on Facebook to grab that. Gentlemen, thank you so much. I'm going to go try to grow my beard out a little bit more. I will see you all tomorrow. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.